We're going to kick things off today with our special focus, Covindication. So let's get into it. Our lives changed as the veil was further peeled back and new layers of corruption rose to the surface for revelation. While we acclimate and recalibrate upon learning that much of what we thought we knew was never what many of us thought that it was. I look back to the events of this century in particular, especially the changes in mainstream ideals and norms regarding health. And I can trace many of these events to the seeds planted last century to piece together a detail-oriented timeline leading up to the normalization and social conditioning required to pull off the events of 2019. I'm sure you all could too if you went back in those memory banks. I will place the start of the seed planting primarily in the 1980s and 90s. Although we could trace the overall themes back several more decades, I wish to focus on the social conditioning aspect more so than the, vaccination aspect. As I believe that is where most focus had to be placed over an extended duration to achieve the catastrophic results that we've seen unfold since the response to the incident. The videos I have compiled to share with everyone are very recent and bring us up to date with what we have learned since the rollout of the mRNA science experiment, that a high schooler from last century should have understood why biotech on such a conceptual level is literally not viable and shouldn't be attempted upon successfully completing a solid biology course. So one would think that experts with credentials should know better, right? Well, actually, no. Not if those credentials were bought explicitly or were part of some sort of nepotistic spoils. I was not surprised upon learning that Fauci's credentials included a classical studies degree in undergrad and a veterinary degree was seemingly good enough to get him into his position. They were from elite schools where networking and extracurricular opportunities are really the only point of attending when comparing such a curriculum to the curriculum at other institutions. I am telling you this as an alum of a Tier 1 liberal arts college who pursued undergrad in my late 30s. After years of putting off higher education, when I was a young adult, I decided to pursue a rigorous course of study and climb my way up the ranks from attending community college classes and a small regionally ranked private university. After utilizing some college acceptance success strategies I had learned back in prep school during the 1990s when I was still a teenager. When I had reached my goal of getting into one of these supposedly elite schools, not nearly as good as allegedly what Fauci got into, but it's still, Tier 1. During the beginning of this pandemic of sorts, and I had the unfortunate pleasure of finding out that most of my classmates were abysmal at best in regards to academic and social performance, but somehow a C's get degrees attitude prevailed while very few peers I interacted with threw their all into a challenging course of studies or even had a passion for their classes and activities like I did. Honestly, that was the only reason I wanted to be there. I can see how asleep and unassuming I still was at the time, and it really does show. I simply wanted to study in a small setting with others who care just about as much as I do, and that is not what I found, where great minds are supposedly enhanced. It would appear that now an education is no longer a privilege because it has become an expectation and an entitlement, especially to those aligned with many bloodlines and their ages-old obsession with legacies and controlled advantages. The culture of higher education was something I found to be so corrupt and blatantly deceptive. After my experience, I moved on to self-education and self-stability to step away from this incredibly technocratic control matrix they have gotten most of the citizenry either outright trapped in or seized up in by fear. Don't get me wrong, I love classics. I think they are a fine foundation for so many areas of study, but I don't find the credentials or the intentions behind such a career track sufficient or relevant for the position we're talking about in question with Fauci. When we look at the money and influence involved, it makes matters look even worse. I also found that at the nicer the school that I studied at, the work actually got easier, and my peers were literally less competitive and far more apathetic. I have heard these observations are far worse in the Ivy Leagues, including hidden and public Ivies. But due to the networking and political nature of these institutions, that increases the higher up these ranks you look. It shouldn't really be surprising that money and influence amplify dysfunction and glamorize degradation beneath the surface. If there was not a ton of money at stake and an opportunity to calm the masses, to provide uninformed consent to take part in the most cataclysmic crimes against humanity and science that we have yet witnessed this common era, this agenda, the powers that be carried out, would have been a complete impossibility. I'd like to take a moment to remind everyone that all of this greater project revolving around the conditioning required to coerce or soothsay the citizenry is literally rooted in corrupt systems, compromised institutions, psychological operations, corrupt occult orders, witchcraft, metaphysics, and black magic, malevolent political theories, dark alchemical practices not fully understood by those practicing such practices. And we were all warned about these events and prophecies from multiple cultures from all around the world. Just because the ruling class and their secret society henchmen have done everything in their power to destroy, call into question, or persecute all who stand for truth, freedom, and knowledge from sources that they have not sanctioned does not mean that they have a right to behave in such a way, because they were never in the right regarding any of their actions due to their true intentions: covert eugenics, pillage, and plunder via usury systems and institutional abuses. Let's take a look at some outstanding videos that shed some light on what we know about all that has unfolded since 2019. And there will be more than these that I'm reading off in the playlist. I have a lot of great stuff in there for you. The COVID vaccine DNA bombshell they tried to hide, exclusive with Dr. David Spiker from Redacted. COVID control agenda and AI with Dr. Campbell. Matt Kibbe on the deep state, Fauci, and the COVID cover-up on Dad Saves America with the Free the People. They're doing a collaboration on that one. You Will Never Look at COVID the Same Way Again by Clifton Duncan and Hawk Jensen on Zuby's channel. Are you comparing COVID-19 vaccine to Holocaust explosive clash over mRNA vaccine rocks Senate from the Economic Times? And vaccinated people are more prone to chronic illness. Shocking COVID vax revelation at JFK Jr. hearing, and that's also from the Economic Times. There's a whole bunch more COVID videos I have in that playlist for you guys, so be sure to go find that and check the description box for a link to that as well.